Now, Ken Russell's just brought out his autobiography, A British Picture, it's called. It's very funny, moving, and honest. He's made a South Bank show, but no, it's not the film of the book. That would be too easy for the inventive Mr. Russell. It's brand new, an alternative biography, and just as, well, you'll soon judge for yourselves. 2 nights ago at the San Remo Festival, Russell collected the award as Director of the Year. His last South Bank show won the coveted Emmy in America. His new feature film, The Rainbow, his best the word is since Women in Love, comes out in November. His work is being celebrated in film festivals from Cardiff to Helsinki. Yet here he still gets a turbulent press. Despite his pioneering classics for Monitor, which is where I first worked with him, and films which profanely tore into sacred cows with a furious, if sometimes misdirected, but hugely inventive energy, he still has to fight for recognition in London. Sooner or later, there'll be queues going 3 times round the National Film Theatre to see celebrations of the work of our perpetual enfant terrible, intoxicated by the movies. When that happens, they'll show this film first. Here, then, is the first world premiere of the real Ken Russell.
If I had a talking picture of you, I would run it every time I felt blue. I would give 10 shows a day and a midnight matinee if I had a talking picture of you.
I was born in Southampton on July the 3rd, 1927, and christened Henry Kenneth Alfred Russell. And the first thing I remember was Mum and her sister discussing the week's films.
Not much on this week, Eth.
What's on at the King's?
Old Mother Riley.
Oh.
I won't stand for it. I won't stand for it.
Stand for what, Mother?
I've worked in this workhouse ever since it was a bluebird. And let me tell you that I can be as gentle as anyone.
Well, you're not
It's
getting
Arthur
this now.
Lucan and Kitty McShane.
He's a bloke dressed up, and she's his wife. I hear they don't get on.
I'm not surprised.
And who wants to see a film about wash day blues?
Enough to give you the,
What do you expect, Moo? It's a British picture.
What else is on?
There's John Barrymore in General Crack.
I fancy a musical myself.
Oh, look! Putting on the Ritz.
Oh, that looks good.
Let's go.
I went along too, before I could walk. Like me, the talkies were still in their infancy, but I was just as happy with the old silent films you could show on the living room wall. Felix the Cat, who kept on walking, was one favourite, and so was Betty Boop, who made me want to visit the South Sea Islands. My home movie projector was little more than a hand-cranked magic lantern, but to me, it was truly magic, for you could conjure up your friends whenever you felt like it. But they were all short subjects, and over almost before they began. So I looked about for something longer. I found it around the corner in a chemist shop that hired out feature films. The fact that they were in German didn't matter. They were silent. So I built extension arms on the projector with my Meccano set and entered a new world. Fritz Lang's Metropolis was top of the bill, and still is. The story took place in a city of the future and told of a mad scientist who planned to give his robot the likeness of the pretty heroine he had trapped in his laboratory. Exciting as it was, I began to feel that something was missing. I found it in my Christmas stocking in the shape of a gramophone record. By trial and error, I soon realized that with The March from Things to Come by Arthur Bliss, I also had the power to bring things to life. On the other side of the record was a heroic march by Edvard Grieg, which was too old-fashioned for Metropolis, but really put some fire into Fritz Lang's Siegfried. Soon, I was giving shows to the neighbours in our garage at 6 months a time. The proceeds went to the Spitfire Fund, for we were at war with Nazi Germany, and Southampton was in the front line. More often than not, these shows took place during an air raid. But if the audience saw any connection between the events on the screen and what was going on in the world outside, they never let it spoil their enjoyment of the film. Art knows no frontiers. Now, in case you're beginning to think that I have a one-track mind, I must tell you that I was also mad on trains, and not just toy trains. The house in which I grew up was a bit spooky, so I escaped from it whenever I could. Belmont Road was also a bit sinister and devoid of children, so I always set out on my adventures alone, and I preferred it that way. St Denis Station, less than 5 minutes away, was my destination, and although it was only a whistle stop, it was on the main line to London, and an absolute paradise for train spotters. But it wasn't numbers I was after, but something far less definable. Excitement, anticipation, and wonderment were all part of it. But the answer was in those approaching clouds which held my secret dreams, and hopefully their fulfillment. Dreams of my favourite film star, Dorothy Lamour, and the hope of finding her one day on some romantic South Sea island. But for that I needed a ship, and I needed to know how to communicate. I needed a nautical college. Only one would have me. I enrolled as a cadet and started learning. Ladies were not encouraged in the dormitories, and I was also caught breaking bounds to see Dottie Lamour in A Loma of the South Seas, and firmly discouraged from repeating the offence. I was also becoming a fan of Betty Grable and her Technicolor musicals, which I even preferred to seamanship, and that's why I volunteered to direct the annual concert. Traditionally, it was the dullest night of the year, with ranks of cadets in uniform singing, "The fishermen of England are working at their nets." But I had other ideas. And so I started rehearsing the first drag show in college history. It was a scandal. The first night was my last. I left the next day for the South Seas and that long-cherished date with my dream girl. But we sailed to Australia and back without a sign of her. I was devastated. No Dottie Lamour, and going a bit dotty myself. The captain was a tyrant. Bligh of the Bounty was sweetness and light by comparison. I even thought of mutiny, but as I didn't fancy hanging from the yardarm, I jumped ship instead. I broke the news that I was a deserter as gently as possible. But my parents took it badly. Memories of the old man haunted me constantly. Even though the war in the Pacific had been over, he still feared an attack by the enemy and ordered a 24-hour lookout. He feared midget submarines and kamikaze pilots. We kept watch day after day in all weathers. And he watched us too, constantly. A friendly doctor diagnosed an anxiety neurosis, and I was officially invalided out of the merchant service. So I stayed at home and discovered the healing balm of music, and dreamed my dreams. I dreamed there was once a famous composer who dreamed of a silly film that portrayed him as a painted popinjay who fancied little boys, and how amused he was by it. Time to wake up to reality. My parents, tired of my dreaming, presented me with an ultimatum. Join Dad in his dad's shoe shop, or get out from under Mum's feet and join the Air Force. It was no contest. So I volunteered, did my square bashing, and was interviewed for a trade. Naturally, there were questions about my time in the Merchant Navy, so I mentioned that I hadn't got on with the captain, and how the family doctor had certified me mentally unfit for the sea.
That won't wash here, laddie. You may not be mentally fit to scrub the barrack square. But if anyone from a group captain to a corporal tells you to scrub the f***er, then you'll get down on your hands and knees, and you'll scrub the f***er, even if it takes you the rest of your time, and you won't get no help from the MO neither. Now tell me, what do you want to do when you're demobbed?
Be a film director. Or failing that, I'd like to stage musicals.
Oh, then something in the entertainment line would suit you, like organising camp concerts with a lot of pretty waffs in short skirts kicking their legs up. Plenty of crotch work, eh? And swinging tits. Don't wink at me, laddie, or I'll stick you on a fizzer. I'll have you on jankers for our soul to breakfast time. I'll have your f***ing guts for garters. Name and number!
AC2 Russell.
What do you think this is, laddie? Scotch mist?
AC2 Russell, Flight Sergeant.
Stand your attention when you speak to me! And if you think you can skive your way through the service looking up the skirts of a squad of dancing girls with big knockers hoping for a flash of pussy, then you're in for a shock, laddie. That's why I'm putting you down as a sports film director. You couldn't direct Sweet Tony Adams. You're nothing but a wanker, Russell. What are you?
A wanker, Flight Sergeant. My training took place in a camp we shared with the Royal Navy, and it was a sailor who talked me into a dancing career. A decision which eventually led to a small part in Annie Get Your Gun.
Like the Chippewa, Iroquois, Omaha, like those Indians, I'm an Indian too. A Sioux, just like rising moon, falling pants, running nose, like those Indians, I'm an Indian too. A Sioux, I'm an Indian too.
But it wasn't long before I had second thoughts. A show business career wasn't really for me. At heart, I'd always wanted to be a film director, so naturally I made the rounds of the studios and was turned away through lack of experience. So, with the help of a friend posing as a fashion model and a little smoke, I took up photography, which in turn led to smoke of a sweeter kind, and cinematography, and the church, and film directing. My first effort, Peep Show, was made on a shoestring with the help of friends. That's my future wife, Shirley. That's my landlady. He supplied the coffee and sandwiches, and that man was our star. He was also a recent convert to the Catholic faith and had the knack of making the New Testament sound like amazing science fiction. Soon I was hooked. I, too, wanted to become a Catholic space cadet. He sent me along to a local space sister for briefing. She told me about the great spaceman in the sky who created the universe and made man in his own image. But when it came to mass production, it seems that man was prone to malfunction. His circuits were continually blowing and tripping into the abort and destruct modes. So the great spaceman sent his only son along to fix these defects and program him for an extraterrestrial life potential when his working parts became obsolete. Truly amazing. Then she gave me an awesome communication system called a rosary, which sent coded messages to the great spaceman himself. The countdown began. I gripped the rosary and beamed the message. My cosmic journey had begun. My first stop was the space station where Bernadette had contact with the great Space Mother. Lourdes is a place of pilgrimage and a place of miracles. At 4 o'clock every afternoon, the faithful gather in the square in front of the basilica for the procession of the Blessed Sacrament. Some pray for themselves, some pray for others. Between camera setups, I did a bit of both. And sometimes our prayers are answered, as these cast-offs testify. How else explain my landing one of the most coveted jobs in the BBC on the strength of spotty amateur movies like that?
There was no pony anymore, but Elgar bought himself a bike, and despite all setbacks, almost certainly felt an enormous relief.
That was the voice of Sir Hugh Weldon, who ran Monitor, the first regular arts programme ever to be seen on British television. I was taken on as the resident filmmaker, and under Hugh's inspired guidance produced regular documentaries for 10 years or more, the most popular of which was undoubtedly Elgar, Man and... The image that put him forever in the top 10 and made Elgar a household name. And I was the happiest chap in England. The viewers, it seems, were also happy, and so I was permitted to work my way through my favourite composers. Cut to graduation day at the Conservatory of Music in Old St. Petersburg, with the faculty divided over the merits of a new piano concerto by their star pupil, Sergei Prokofiev. A great performance on a low budget, with only enough cash to show the composer's hands miming to a record, and 2 professors playing 200. It's all done by mirrors, and dumb show. Making films for Monitor was fun, despite the restrictions which also included those of policy. Reconstructions were frowned upon at first, and although I was eventually permitted to have an actor impersonate Bartók, and in close-up at that, only his music was allowed to speak for him. That, and Hugh Weldon's commentary.
Throughout the 20s and 30s, Bartók was steadily composing
Song of Summer!
You can understand the ancient Persians worshipping the sun.
Yes, Hugh finally gave the okay to get out the clapperboard. Maybe he was getting sick of the sound of his own voice, who knows. But it was certainly a breakthrough when Delius, blind and paralyzed, was allowed to converse with his amanuensis, Eric Fenby.
Now then, Fenby, where were we from yesterday? Cellos and basses.
Yes, I think it should be an A, cellos and basses.
Very good. Now, in our parts, get your violins a C sharp. Yes, play it. Yes, and yes, violas. What have you got in the violas?
Well, I've nothing there.
Well, better get a B flat there. Yes, and play it like that. Yes, just a little excitement.
Now I'll try and play it all.
Yes, now take your C sharp to E, second violins. Yes, that's it. Against F sharp and A, next bar, first violins. Put a G there.
Where does the G go?
Divide your cellos. G in the first half. Yes, no A in the second. Yes, add a bassoon there. Oh, write that down.
Shouldn't the bass move a little there, Felix?
No. Put a pizzicato on the first beat. No, better on the third beat. Yes, now move your inner parts down a semitone. Bring the oboe in. Top A. Ta-ta-ta-ta. Triplet on the first beat. Yes, now play it all. No. You forgot the pizzicato in the basses.
Yes.
That's it, very good.
But not all of my BBC biopics were straightforward as that award winner. And at the time, the Debussy film was considered quite controversial.
What's all this got to do with Debussy?
He wrote the music for a mystery play called The Martyrdom of Saint Sebastian.
Since when has Saint Sebastian been a woman?
Gabriel D'Annunzio wrote it for a woman. Don't ask me why. I'm just being faithful to the author's concept.
Mr. Russell, why do you deliberately set out to shock your audience?
I believe in mass therapy.
Why is preoccupation, I could almost say reverence for art? What does the word art mean to you?
A white stick tapping through the night.
I see. You virtually invented the drama documentary and you've had many imitators. The genre is now exhausted. What next?
Satire. I found the perfect subject in Richard Strauss, who wrote an overblown domestic symphony in which he set his family life to music. Someone called the piece a cataclysm of domestic plumbing, but Strauss didn't stop at bathroom humor. Most of the symphony takes place in the bedroom, for which he composed Eine kleine Nuki Musik, and laid bare his more intimate moments with a candor hitherto unknown in music. Thus spake the great lover.
This is not the music of Richard Strauss. I must protest.
No, it's by his old mate Johann. Won't that do?
Nonsense, his mate is Josephine in bed there.
Now wait a minute and I'll explain. When Strauss Jr. saw the original program, he was so outraged that he slapped an embargo on the music. But he couldn't touch the picture, so it's okay to keep watching.
May I ask you a question?
Certainly.
Mr. Russell, are you a sex maniac?
No, but Strauss was.
Is what we have just seen an example of pop art?
Well, since it deflated a bloated ego, I'd call it Pop-Tart.
Some might call it infantile.
Only the senile.
Mr. Russell, you are deliberately deceiving the public. Richard Strauss did not have a symphony orchestra in the bedroom.
Oh, but he did.
Oh, really? There.
In there.
You have made sport with the truth.
Strauss wore a nightcap in bed. True or false?
That's not important.
So what is?
You obviously enjoy your role of enfant terrible of the British cinema.
Is that how they see me?
Yeah!
Oh. And all because I was a little unconventional and irreverent. So why the fuss? Why the outrage? The Dance of the Seven Veils was simply a satirical look at Richard Strauss stripped down to his swastika. By exposing his activities in Nazi Germany and the sex and violence in his music, it seems I was guilty of attacking a sacred cow. The result was an international scandal. The BBC were less than pleased. After 34 films, it was a fast fade out. No golden handshake. No handshake at all. The feature film world is pretty free with its handshakes, but mention the word art and they think you mean Art Garfunkel. Tchaikovsky? What film on a composer ever made money? Tell me. What's the storyline? Well, it's about a homosexual who falls in love with a nymphomaniac. Sometimes it could be as simple as that. But my next sales pitch, struggling artist shares studio with woman twice his age in platonic relationship. Cut no ice with the distributors. I can't think why. So I had to double mortgage my house in order to finance Savage Messiah. I was glad to. I owed a debt to its hero, Henri Gaudier-Brechka. Gaudier was artisan as well as artist. Often on the verge of starvation, he turned his hand to anything to earn a crust for himself and his beloved Mamushka, and enjoyed the challenge. And though his genius was never appreciated in his own lifetime, he was always aware of his own talent, and that alone was enough to keep him going. Alphabet Soup kept me going when I was down and out, with only dreams of becoming a film director. Soup and the stirring example of Gaudier's belief that everything in life is worth enduring for the sake of one thing only. That, and the love of a woman you gladly die for. By now, I had the reputation of being as reckless as Gaudier, and was regarded with suspicion by members of the establishment. Women in Love was admired, but almost everything after that aroused passions as varied as the films themselves, especially the religious subjects.
She's got the power to heal you, never fear. She has got the power to heal you, never fear. Just one word from her lips, and the deaf can hear. Hey, she's got the power to heal you, never fear. One word from her lips, and the deaf can hear.
Marilyn Monroe, Saint Marilyn, from Tommy, the boy who toppled false gods in his search for enlightenment. I too was disillusioned. I wanted to break free. I was tired of clouds of incense. I was after clouds of glory. Skidder Mountain, God made manifest according to the poet Coleridge. It was here, in the most beautiful place in England, that I found my new church. The west wing of the transept is Catbells, the most walked upon hill in Cumbria, while the east wing is known as Grange Fell and is frequented mostly by rock climbers and sheep. The nave is Borrowdale Valley, and the altar is Castle Crag, where a memorial stands to local lads killed in the war. The font is Derwentwater, and my new prayer book, The Prelude, by William Wordsworth. And so, in a sense, I became a devout churchgoer, encouraging congregations of film crews to share my devotions. One of my favourite locations was the Lodore Falls, but you could point a camera most anywhere up here and come up with a spectacular shot. It's a place of enchantment that can transform itself into Norway, Switzerland, or Bavaria at the sound of a clapperboard. Or even the kitsch, never, never world of Zarathustra in pursuit of life. the films I shot in the Lake District, and there were many, reflected some aspect of my life there. Most of the time, life was fun, sometimes destructive, as when my marriage went up in flames and I was estranged from my children for a while. But mostly tranquil, as in the case of the film I shot for Granada Television on the poet Wordsworth and his sister. William and Dorothy was about two people who loved each other as much as the place in which they lived, and celebrated it in their life and work. A young American girl was now sharing my life, and like the Wordsworths before us, we discovered the wonders of the place together, and every day brought fresh delights. And although William and Dorothy were one in spirit, the ultimate sacrament was denied them. But just as Viv and I were contemplating a pagan marriage, Hollywood called. We could have had an easy life in Tinseltown, but Viv couldn't stand the smog, and neither could I. So having made a couple of cult classics, Altered States and Crimes of Passion, we packed our bags and made tracks for home, stopping off on the way to be married by the Reverend Tony Perkins on board the Queen Mary. After the honeymoon, Viv, who was a graduate of the Boston Film School, settled down with me in our lonely cottage in the hills. Her maiden name was Jolly, and she spent most of the long winter evenings trying to cheer me up. For Hollywood had quickly forgotten me, and the British film industry were frightened of my hairstyle, so I was out of work and out of sorts. My critics had been less than kind. Of course, I had a whole shelf of awards, and they were a comfort to me, as was the support of my dear wife.
Delights in outraging our sensibilities. A psychologist of the uglier emotions. A thoroughly vicious work, full of chaos and bad taste. Crazy pursuit of novelty, decadence, and death. Hatred, contempt, rage, disgust, despair, and mockery serve as models for his moods. Should be banned on the grounds of indecency. Ideas as pretentious as they are bizarre. Erratic and erotic spasms of ugliness. A sentimental voluptuary wallowing in nature. Stop! They're not about you. They're about your favorite composers. Elgar, Prokofiev, Bartok, Delius, Debussy. They'll be remembered long after those stupid reviews. Aldrich, Darrell, Elson, Apthorpe. Who ever heard of them?
But love them or hate them, I have to admit that some of my films were flops. Nothing to do with their merit, you understand. It's all a question of marketing. Even so, there were times in my life when no one seemed to want me. I waited for a call from my agent in vain. No feature films? Then what about a home movie with the kids?
In the mountain greenery where God paints scenery just two crazy people together. Why'd you love your lover? Blue skies be your cover. When it rains, we'll laugh at the weather. And if you're good, I'll search for wood so you can cook while I stand here. Beans cook, get no keener reception in the beanery. Bless our mountain greenery. Simple cooking means much more than French cuisines. I've a banquet planned, which is sandwiches and beans. Coffee's just as grand with a little sand. Eat and you'll grow fatter, girl. Smatter, girl. Add a girl. And no matter where we may roam, we could find no keener retreat from life's machinery. While you love your lover, let blue skies be your cover. That's our mountain greenery. Home, 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 mountain greenery. Should it do that?
It was a lot of fun, but it didn't pay the rent. But luckily, Viv could type. So we put our heads together and wrote a succession of screenplays culminating in The Rainbow, based on the novel by D.H. Lawrence. Women in Love had been a hit, so why shouldn't we get lucky with the prequel? My agent did his best, but it seems that our scripts just weren't considered commercial, and even The Rainbow joined the pile of rejects. There was nothing for it but to pray. Hello?
Ken? Melvin, how'd you like to do a film on Vaughan Williams?
Sounds great. Iona Brown playing the lark ascending. But I was still getting the bird and getting desperate. I turned my hand to directing anything that came along. Told constantly by our critics that my work was operatic, a dirty word in England, I took the hint and went to sunny Italy to direct lyric drama and quickly made a reputation. My most controversial production was Mephistopheles, which includes a scene in a prison cell where the deranged heroine, accused of drowning her baby and murdering her mother, protests her innocence. In Genoa, where some unfortunate women are still treated like chattels, that scene made headlines. Likewise, the Devil's spaceship, powered by a convent of nuns, fed into a fiery furnace. In a town noted for its superabundance of holy sisters, it was standing room only, but I was escorted to the airport. It was around this time that I was asked to direct my first music video, which also helped pay the rent and keep me out of trouble, for a time at least. Here's a sample, a song about our planet, She's So Beautiful, written by Dave Clark and sung by Cliff Richard and filmed, guess, Big Trouble. With me in court being sued for $1 million, having finally landed a feature film, Moll Flanders, I was accused of walking off it. Bankruptcy stared me in the face. Or even worse. Of course I was innocent, but what if I lost the case? I didn't have $1 million. I didn't have enough money for my defense even. Until I met Richard A. Golub, the singing lawyer. That's him in the middle. We made a deal. He'd represent me if I made a pop video of his new single. It was an offer I couldn't refuse.
Sentence you to hard labor, hard labor. And it's sing, are you listening?
Children, you're on death row or you're doing time. You're serving a man for a bogus crime. You can't make a local telephone call. You've been installed like a carpet, wall to wall. The world's got to know that my cause is to let you go. Because if you got the beat, I can put you back out on the street.
We shot the video in Sing Sing. No comment.
Said I'm dancing, that's a boat to stay. A-U-S-T-I-C-E.
Hoping for the best, I feared the worst. What if I lost the case and we were dispossessed and forced to leave our humble cottage among the fells? A poignant sequence from William and Dorothy came to mind, which picture by picture mirrored our own situation.
Farewell, thou little nook of mountain ground. thou rocky corner in the lowest stair of that magnificent temple which doth bound one side of our whole vale with grandeur rare. Sweet garden orchard, eminently fair, the loveliest spot that man hath ever found. Farewell, we leave thee to heaven's peaceful care, thee and the cottage which thou dost surround. Dear spot, which we have watched with tender heed, bringing thee chosen plants and blossoms blown among the distant mountains, flower and weed, which thou hast taken to thee as thy own, making all kindness registered and known. Thou, for our sakes, though nature's child indeed, fair in thyself and beautiful alone, hast taken gifts which thou dost little need. O happy garden, whose seclusion deep hath been so friendly to industrious hours and to soft slumbers that did gently steep our spirits, carrying with them dreams of flowers and wild notes warbled among leafy bowers.
And if the verdict went against us, then we too would have to say goodbye to our little home and everything we held dear. Waiting for the jury to reach their verdict was sheer agony. Charge not proven. I'm free! Thank you, Richard A. Golub, for dancing for justice. May your pop single climb to the top of the charts and make you a star.
They can't bust us because we weren't just stars.
Praise unto Allah.
In this world, if you want justice, you gotta get.
It was great to be home again, back in the old routine. And at the end of the day, reading the kids a bedtime story. Their favorite was The Lair of the White Worm, one of my many unmade screenplays. The Lair of the White Worm is a very British fairy tale of gallant knights, fair maidens and vile dragons, with overtones of Fritz Lang Siegfried. And it was a fairy tale with a happy ending on the day an American company actually asked me to make it. They also asked me to make Salome's Last Dance, another very British subject, featuring Oscar Wilde. And then they stepped in where British angels had also feared to tread, Lawrence country. Why? Maybe they saw a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. Who knows? So here I was once more, setting off on the path I'd first trodden 20 years earlier to make Dante's Inferno, with Oliver Reed reliving a Victorian nightmare. Sometimes I wonder if I'm not caught up in a recurring dream myself. How else explain the compulsion I have to return here? It's not the easiest of locations. Perhaps it's magic I'm after. Or am I just a hapless acolyte caught up in a forgotten ritual? For this is a pagan place. It's also a very potent place. Thanks, Paul. It's a wrap, everyone. 1 hour for lunch. Thanks, everyone.
What's in the next scene?
Scene 27.
Okay.
Well, was that all right for you?
Excellent.
All right.
Very good.
Takes 3, 5, and 15. 27. Thank you. Off for a quick pint and then back to work. Films made on a low budget and tight schedule are tough going. By the end of the shoot, you begin to feel your age. What do you call an aging enfant terrible, I wonder? Perhaps they'll say I've grown up at last when they see the rainbow. After all, it's a classic story, quite restrained, not in the least outrageous, simply a celebration of a young English girl's coming of age.
Come on.
The film touches on many aspects of English life, both good and bad, that our heroine encounters in her struggle for self-fulfillment. But I hope it also conveys something of that spirit of delight I always felt on that railway bridge. Perhaps it'll be a British picture Mum would have enjoyed. Perhaps it's time to get rid of this.
Ken, it's Melvin.
Hi!
How about doing a movie about yourself?
What a great idea.
It's about time we had a British picture on this show.
Well, of course it's going to be a straight documentary. What do you expect?
Come, you weary, raise your eyes, see the sun in the sky. Here's a new day, come at last, bid your cares goodbye. Sing, brothers, and sing, sisters, we're all leaving today, and we'll all go riding on a rainbow to a new land far away. Get started, be light-hearted, there's no need for delay, and we'll all go riding on a rainbow to a new land far away. Everyone playing in the sun without a worry or care. Children dancing through fields of daisies with rosebuds in their hair.
Sing, brothers, and sing, sisters, we're all leaving today,
and we'll all go riding on a rainbow to a new land.